Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you something truly special. I want to tell you about one of the most extraordinary military operations in modern history, a mission that changed the world forever. This is the real story of the men who hunted down the most wanted terrorist on the planet, Osama bin Laden. These weren't just soldiers, they were elite warriors from SEAL Team 6, the most secretive and skilled special operations unit in the United States military. What happened on the night of May 2, 2011, in a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, is a story of courage, precision, sacrifice, and justice. So settle in, because this is going to be intense. This is the inside story of Operation Neptune Spear. For nearly 10 years, Osama bin Laden had been a ghost. After the attacks of September 11, 2001, which killed nearly 3,000 innocent people, the man responsible for orchestrating the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil had vanished into the mountains of Afghanistan and Pakistan. The CIA, the military, intelligence agencies around the world, all of them had been hunting him relentlessly. Presidents had vowed to bring him to justice. Families of victims had waited for closure. But bin Laden had mastered the art of disappearing. By 2010, the trail had gone cold so many times that some believed he might never be found. But deep within the corridors of the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, a small team of analysts refused to give up. They had been following a lead, a thread so thin it seemed almost impossible. They were tracking a courier, a man known only as Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. Intelligence suggested that this courier was trusted by bin Laden himself, someone who might lead them directly to the target. For months, the analysts pored over intercepts, satellite imagery, and human intelligence reports. Then, in August 2010, they got the break they had been waiting for. The courier was spotted driving through the streets of Abbottabad, a quiet city in northern Pakistan, just 35 miles from the capital, Islamabad. He drove to a large compound surrounded by high walls topped with barbed wire. The compound had no phone lines, no internet connection. Whoever lived there clearly did not want to be found. The CIA began round-the-clock surveillance. Drones circled overhead. Cameras watched every entrance and exit. Analysts studied the layout of the compound, the movements of the people inside. They counted 3 families living there, but there was one individual who never left the 3rd floor of the main building, someone they called the Pacer, a tall man who walked circles in the courtyard but always stayed hidden from view. The analysts grew more convinced. This could be him. This could be Osama bin Laden. In early 2011, the intelligence was presented to President Barack Obama. The president gathered his national security team, the best military and intelligence minds in the country. The debate was intense. Some argued for an airstrike, bombs that would obliterate the compound from above. Others worried about collateral damage, about killing innocent civilians, about starting a diplomatic crisis with Pakistan. But there was another option, a riskier one. Send in a team of Navy SEALs to capture or kill bin Laden on the ground. Admiral William McRaven, commander of Joint Special Operations Command, believed his men could do it. He recommended SEAL Team 6, officially known as the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, or DEVGRU. These were not ordinary SEALs. They were the elite of the elite, operators who had spent years training for the most dangerous missions imaginable. McRaven handpicked 23 men from Red Squadron, one of the most experienced assault teams in DEVGRU. The men chosen for this mission didn't know the target at first. They were simply told to report to a classified training facility in North Carolina. There, they found something astonishing, a full-scale replica of the Abbottabad compound. It had been built in secret down to the last detail, the walls, the buildings, the courtyards, everything. For weeks, the SEALs trained. They practiced the mission over and over, rehearsing every possible scenario. Helicopter insertions, room clearing, close quarters combat. What if the helicopters crashed? What if they encountered heavy resistance? What if bin Laden was wearing a suicide vest? Train like you fight, one of the operators said during a break, because when the bullets start flying, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back on your training. Finally, in late April, the team was briefed on the real target. When they saw the face on the screen, Osama bin Laden, the room fell silent. This was it. This was the mission they had been preparing for their entire careers. Some of the men had been in New York on 9/11. Others had lost friends in Afghanistan and Iraq fighting the war that bin Laden had started. This wasn't just another mission. This was personal. On the evening of May the 1st, 2011, the team gathered at Jalalabad airfield in eastern Afghanistan. The sun was setting over the mountains as the men loaded into two modified Black Hawk helicopters. The birds had been specially designed for stealth, their rotors quieter, their frames coated with radar-absorbing material. Accompanying the SEALs was a military working dog named Cairo, a Belgian Malinois trained to detect explosives and track targets. President Obama and his national security team gathered in the White House Situation Room, thousands of miles away. Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Defense Secretary Robert Gates, all of them sat in tense silence, watching grainy video feeds from drones overhead. The president knew the risks. If this mission failed, if the SEALs were captured or killed on Pakistani soil, the consequences would be catastrophic. The Black Hawks lifted off just after 11 p.m. local time. The flight across the border into Pakistan took about 90 minutes. The pilots flew low, hugging the terrain to avoid radar detection. Inside the helicopters, the SEALs sat in silence, checking their weapons one last time. They carried suppressed rifles, grenades, explosives, and enough ammunition for a prolonged firefight. Each man wore night vision goggles and body armor. They knew the plan, but they also knew that no plan survives first contact. As the helicopters approached Abbottabad, something went wrong. The first Black Hawk, carrying half the assault team, began to lose lift as it hovered over the compound. The air was warmer than expected. The walls of the compound disrupted the rotor wash. The pilot fought to control the aircraft, but it was no use. The helicopter clipped the wall and went down hard, crashing inside the compound courtyard. For a moment, everything seemed to hang in the balance. But the pilot had managed to keep the tail rotor from hitting the ground, preventing a catastrophic crash. The SEALs inside were shaken, but uninjured. They moved immediately, kicking open the side door and pouring out into the compound. The second helicopter, seeing the crash, adjusted course and landed outside the walls. The operators aboard fast-roped down and breached the perimeter. The assault had begun. The SEALs moved through the compound with lethal efficiency. The first building they entered was the guest house, where the courier and his family lived. The courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, appeared in a doorway holding an AK-47. He didn't get a chance to fire. A SEAL dropped him with a suppressed shot to the chest. His wife tried to charge the operators, and she was shot in the leg and subdued. The team regrouped and moved toward the main building, a three-story structure where the high-value target was believed to be hiding. They blew the metal door with explosive charges and entered the ground floor. It was dark inside, the only light coming from their night vision goggles. They moved up a narrow staircase, weapons raised. Every corner a potential ambush. On the second floor they encountered bin Laden's son, Khalid. He appeared at the top of the stairs, and before he could react, he was shot and killed. The SEALs continued upward. The staircase to the third floor was even narrower, barely wide enough for one man. At the top, two operators saw a tall figure duck into a room. This was it. This was him. Khalid, one of the SEALs whispered, using the son's name as a ruse to draw bin Laden out. But there was no response. The lead operator moved forward, his rifle trained on the doorway. He saw a tall, bearded man peering around the corner. The man's hands were not visible. In that split second, the SEAL made the decision. He fired 2 shots. Osama bin Laden fell to the ground. Another operator entered the room and fired additional rounds to ensure the target was down. 2 women were in the room, screaming. The SEALs pushed them aside, scanning for threats. One of the operators knelt beside the body and examined the face. Even in death, the features were unmistakable. The long beard, the gaunt cheeks, the eyes that had stared out from wanted posters for a decade. "Geronimo," the operator radioed back. "Geronimo EKIA. Enemy killed in action." In the White House Situation Room, the words were heard loud and clear. President Obama leaned forward, his face tense. "We got him?" someone asked. "We think so," came the cautious reply. But they needed confirmation. The SEALs on the ground moved quickly. They photographed the body from multiple angles. One operator, who stood 6 feet 4 inches tall, lay down next to the body to measure its height. Bin Laden had been reported to be 6'4". The match was close. But there was no time to waste. The SEALs had been on the ground for less than 20 minutes, but the Pakistani military would be responding soon. The team gathered intelligence, hard drives, documents, computer disks, anything that might contain information about Al-Qaeda operations. They also prepared to take the body. This was critical. Without the body, conspiracy theories would rage forever. The world needed proof. Outside, the team faced a problem. One of the Black Hawks was destroyed sitting at an angle in the courtyard. They couldn't fly it out. The solution was drastic but necessary. The SEALs rigged the downed helicopter with explosives and destroyed it, ensuring that the stealth technology wouldn't fall into enemy hands. The explosion lit up the night sky. A backup Chinook helicopter, which had been waiting at the border, flew in to extract the team. The SEALs loaded the body into a bag along with the intelligence haul and climbed aboard. As the helicopters lifted off and turned toward the border, the operators finally allowed themselves to exhale. They had done it. Against all odds, they had completed the mission. 40 minutes after the assault began, they were gone, disappearing into the night. The flight back to Afghanistan was surreal. The SEALs sat in the darkened cabin, the body bag at their feet, the weight of what they had just accomplished sinking in. Some of them thought about the families of the 9/11 victims, the soldiers who had died fighting Al-Qaeda, the years of sacrifice that had led to this moment. One operator later recalled thinking, "We finally got that son of a bitch." When the helicopters landed at Jalalabad, the body was taken to a hangar for formal identification. CIA analysts compared facial features and took DNA samples. The results came back quickly. It was a match. Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of September 11th, the most wanted terrorist in the world, was dead. Within hours, bin Laden's body was flown to the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson in the Arabian Sea. There, in accordance with Islamic tradition, the body was washed, wrapped in a white sheet, and placed in a weighted bag. A military officer read prepared remarks, and the body was slid into the ocean. There would be no grave, no shrine for his followers to rally around. Osama bin Laden's final resting place was the sea. Back in Washington, President Obama addressed the nation. "Good evening," he began, his voice steady. "Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children." Across the country, Americans poured into the streets, waving flags and celebrating. Outside the White House, at Ground Zero in New York, at military bases around the world, people cheered and wept. Justice, it seemed, had finally been served. But for the men of SEAL Team 6, there were no parades, no public recognition. Their identities remained classified. They returned to their lives, to their families, and to their next missions. Some of them later wrote books about the operation. Matt Bissonnette, writing under the pseudonym Mark Owen, published No Easy Day in 2012, offering a first-hand account of the raid. Robert O'Neill, the SEAL who claimed to have fired the fatal shots, went public with his story in 2014. Both men faced controversy and criticism for breaking the code of silence that surrounded DevGru. The debate over who actually killed bin Laden, O'Neill, or another operator became a point of contention within the SEAL community. Some argued that it didn't matter, that the mission was a team effort, that no single man could take credit for something so complex. "We all pulled the trigger that night," one SEAL said. "The truth, perhaps, is that bin Laden's death was the result of years of intelligence work, presidential decisions, military planning, and the courage of 24 men who risked everything in a foreign land." The raid also had consequences. Relations between the United States and Pakistan were strained. How had bin Laden been living in Abbottabad, a city filled with military installations, for years without being detected? The questions lingered. The intelligence gathered from the compound, thousands of documents and computer files, provided valuable insights into Al-Qaeda's operations and led to the capture or killing of other high-value targets. For the families of the 9/11 victims, the news brought a measure of closure. "It doesn't bring my son back," one father said, "but it brings some peace." The world had changed on September 11, 2001, and in some small way, the mission on May 2, 2011, marked the end of a chapter. The war on terror was far from over, but the man who had started it was gone. The legacy of Operation Neptune Spear endures. It stands as a testament to what skilled, determined people can accomplish when they refuse to give up. It is a reminder that justice, though sometimes delayed, can still be achieved, and it is a tribute to the men and women of the US military and intelligence community who work in the shadows, often without recognition, to keep the world safe. So, my friends, this is the true story of the SEAL team that captured and ultimately killed Osama bin Laden. This wasn't fiction, this wasn't dramatized for entertainment. This actually happened, and it's important that we remember it, not just as a military victory, but as a moment that brought some measure of justice to thousands of families who had suffered unimaginable loss. This operation, Operation Neptune Spear, is one of the most well-documented special operations missions in history. The information I shared with you today comes from multiple credible sources. Matt Bissonnette's book, No Easy Day, published in 2012, provides a first-hand account from one of the SEALs who was there. Robert O'Neill's interviews and his book, The Operator, released in 2017, offer another perspective. The official accounts from the US Department of Defense, CIA reports, and statements from President Obama's administration in May 2011 give us the broader strategic picture. Journalists like Peter Bergen, who wrote Manhunt, the 10-year search for bin Laden from 9/11 to Abbottabad in 2012, compiled extensive research. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum in New York also preserves documentation and artifacts related to the mission. This mission happened in Abbottabad, Pakistan, on May 2, 2011. It was the culmination of a decade-long manhunt that began after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. The men who carried out this mission were real heroes, members of Naval Special Warfare Development Group, SEAL Team 6. Some of their names are now public, but many remain anonymous, continuing to serve in the shadows. Why is this story so important? Because it shows us what's possible when nations refuse to give up on justice. It shows us the incredible bravery and skill of the men and women who serve in our military. And it reminds us of a dark chapter in history, a chapter that began with the deaths of nearly 3,000 innocent people and ended with the death of the man responsible. This is history. This is real, and we must never forget it. So now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story? Were you surprised by any of the details? Did you know about the helicopter crash, the 40-minute timeline, the incredible training that went into this mission? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell me, where are you watching this video from? What city, what state, what country? I love hearing from you all around the world. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. Share this with someone who loves military history, or with someone who needs to be reminded of the courage and sacrifice of our servicemen and women. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care, stay curious, and never forget the heroes who fight for us. Sending a big hug to all of you. God bless, and see you soon.